And welcome back to Square Off. We are here with the two Democratic candidates for Secretary of State, former Maricopa County Recorder Adrian Fontes, and Democratic House Leader Reginald Bolding. We start this segment with specific questions for each of you, starting with you, Reg Bolding. You've mentioned you're Chief Executive Officer of two nonprofits. They engage in community organizing and voting rights activities. Have these organizations done any work on behalf of your campaigns?
You know, so one of the things that's great about working with community organizations is that you have members who are very excited about election opportunities, and absolutely. So the members of Our Voice, Our Vote Arizona, they've endorsed our campaign, which I'm proud to have their support, along with members of other organizations who've supported our campaign and our race, and that's going to be critical.
So you're Chief Executive Officer of this nonprofit, 501c4, C3,
yes.
And this nonprofit you're in charge of has endorsed your campaign.
So yeah, absolutely.
Is there some weird overlap going on there?
Not at all. So our Voice, Our Vote Arizona has endorsed candidates in the legislature. They endorse candidates for school board, candidates for federal government, and I would be surprised if they didn't support my campaign.
Well, you run it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this office is so extremely important that we have to make sure that we have the chief election officer, that's someone that's going to fight for everyday issues.
And what about disclosing where the money, the donations are coming from, since these appear to be your main sources of income?
You know, that's an important question. And that's extremely why, you know, and that's why we have actually gave all of our 990s to Mary Jo Pitzel, Arizona Republic, to make sure that she and anyone else who wants to see where our resources come from, they can see.
Well, tell us now.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a number of foundations across the country who support voter advocacy. What they do is they want to make sure that all voters in all communities have the ability to register to vote. They want to make sure that there's COVID relief. So what we've done is we give grants to people who needed rental assistance, those who needed clothes during COVID. And I'm proud of the work that we do, and I'm proud of the resources that we get.
Adrian Fontes, you were looking quizzically.
Well, I mean, I think it's important for folks to realize these are non-disclosed donors to a C4 dark money organization that he gets his paycheck from, that has endorsed his campaign, and he's the chief executive officer. I just want to make sure folks understand exactly what is happening here.
Yeah, and let's just be crystal clear. This appearance that there's some dark money aspect or something going on is just quite frankly ridiculous. You know, politicians attack people, leaders attack problems. That's what I've done, right? The reality is when we talk about elected leadership, that's what we should be focusing on. And I have a track record as an elected leader bringing the fight to politicians and at the legislature and winning. As an elected leader, Mr. Fontes, he has a history of disenfranchising voters. During the 2018 election, 95 polling locations weren't open under his watch. Thousands of people weren't able to vote. Mr. Fontes, he actually broke the law according to the Supreme Court when he told voters that they can cross out mistakes on their ballots. Mr. Fontes' track record as an elected official and my track record as an elected official, they're not even close.
Let's give Adrian Fontes time to respond to that.
I think the bottom line here is folks know what my track record is. If my track record wasn't for opening access and making sure everyone could vote, the Republicans wouldn't be fighting so hard to keep me from being the Democratic nominee for Secretary of State. Moreover, attacking problems, not people, is what I'm doing. We have a dark money problem in politics where politicians are getting money in an undisclosed manner from organizations they get their paycheck from, and then they're using that very same organization to help their political campaign without any sort of disclosure. He didn't answer your question about who gave him the money. He just vaguely talked about some organization. So the bottom line here is my track record is clear. Folks know that my system worked well, so well, in fact, that the 4-1 Republican board and the new Republican recorder have all advocated for the work that the team that I built did and all of the work that we put together.
We're still waiting for an answer to the 2018 issue that Reg Bolding raised, and you and I have talked before.
Well, we know the number. We know that the number is wrong. We know that it was during the primary. We've discussed it ad nauseum. And Mr. Bolding ignores the fact that we had created vote centers so that anyone could vote anywhere, even in that election, so that folks, no, I am answering the question. It was 62, not 95. So get your facts straight. Second, we solved the problem pretty darn quickly during the day. Third, the audit that was never published by the Board of Supervisors absolves my office and everything that we did, which Mr. Bolding has never inquired about. So who's attacking the person and who's attacking the problem? The problem was we were working on new systems. We had a contractor that didn't perform, but we took responsibility. And then into 2020, which Mr. Bolding doesn't want to talk about, we had 600,000 more ballots cast in Maricopa County than we saw in 2016, even during the pandemic. If that's not record outcome and not record outturn from voters, even more than the records across the country, we've done a great job.
I want to get a question here, and a larger one, regarding 2018 and something you and I have discussed on the show, 2020, March 2020, the presidential primary, the Democratic primary, when you decided to send registered Democratic voters early ballots late in the game, even those who had not requested them. In both these cases, they seem to show an office holder who will go his own way, ad-libbing as he sees fit. Is that the way you conduct yourself as Secretary of State?
Well, that's a great characterization that's wrong, because the idea here is we were at the outset of a global pandemic. Folks were scared to leave their homes, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with what we did. Moreover, we know that the Attorney General withdrew the case before any court could decide whether or not what we did had any issues to it. There was no prohibition in law for what I did to advocate for voters and keep voters safe. I will always advocate for voters first, and if the law allows it, as I would have argued that it did, I would have kept voting for.
Look, during the 2020 election, let's talk about what I did. I sued the
I
sued the state of Arizona to extend the voter registration deadline, and in 10 days, 35,000 Arizonans got the ability to register to vote and cast their ballot in the 2020 election. That's leadership.
Got to end it there. Adrian Fontes, Reginald Bolding, thank you both for a terrific debate. Best of luck to both of you. Happy Father's Day to all of us, and that's our show for this week. Thanks very much to you for joining us. See you back here next weekend for another round of Sunday Square Off.